Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio, podcast, and television show. I'm your host, Life Coach Marina Young, and I'm very excited about my guest today. We are going to be speaking to Master Lama Rasaji. And Master Lama and I are going to be talking on the topic, harmonizing your mind, body, and spirit. I'm getting chills already. Awesome. Welcome, Master Lama.
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you, Myrna. I'm excited about this subject matter, and it's wonderful to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, thank you for for being on the show and sharing your vast, extensive knowledge with my audience. All right, guys. So let me give you a little bit more information on Master Lama Rasaji. He is one of only 12 Master Lamas in the world. He has lived and trained at the original Tai Chi Gung, the mastery in Tibet. Master Rasaji has been trained in Lao Tzu's regenerative health system for more than 50 years and has been teaching for over 40 years. This is a health system for longevity that has been passed down from teacher to student in an unbroken lineage for more than 3,000 years. He's the founder of Circle of Life and is helping his students overcome challenges while teaching them how to know and live in abundance in all aspects of life, including health, finances, relationships, and service to the world. Like I said, I am going to enjoy your conversation because I am planning to learn a few things today. So, all right, so as we start off, I'm very curious. Can you tell us your journey to becoming one of only 12 Master Lamas in the world? How did you get involved in a health system that's more than 10,000 years old? Because we know, you're not that old.
Yeah, I'm a few months younger than that. Sometimes I think I'm as old as dirt, though, Myrna. But, I started out, I was a very sickly child, very frail child. I was raised in southern end of Nashville in Tennessee. That's where you hear the southern twang. And grew up and I was in and out of the hospital quite a bit with respiratory problems. When my family relocated in the 1960s to North Florida, we went from a drier climate to humidity climate. And according to like old Chinese medicine, the malady kind of moved from my lungs to my kidneys. And in 1968, I had major kidney surgery. And during this kidney surgery time, I had an out of a body experience where I actually first met the Lama that was going to become my mentor years later. I met him and had this altered state. It changed my life. And in 1975, I met this gentleman in the Soho district of New York City, where he was here on a visa and being sponsored by some Buddhist monks actually in Chinatown. And my sparring partner in Chinatown, I was studying Kung Fu at the time and dancing off Broadway. And my sparring partner said, hey, there is this Tibetan Lama that's teaching Tai Chi Gung in Washington Square a few days a week. Would you like to go meet this guy? So in 1975, I walked up to this gentleman. Now, at first, Myrna, I did not know it was the same guy I saw before.
Really?
But what was amazing to me is he was sitting down. It was a Saturday about 9:45 in the morning. I found out that only the real serious students came on Saturday. And he had birds around him, some pigeons, and some squirrels. When I walked around his backside, the logical part of my mind, I was going 18, going on 19. I just assumed that he had some kind of bird seed or something. And when I turned around, the next vision really bothered the arrogant part of me big time. That was, he kind of just floated up to his feet, almost as if he had neutralized gravity.
Wow.
So graceful. He walked over to me and he didn't grab my hand. He grabbed the inside of my forearm and he literally just pulled me in. And when he did, my body was like I got shot with Novocaine. It was just, it didn't function right. My arms felt numb as if they were going to sleep. And his eyes met my eyes. And this is what he said. He said, Rasaji, what took you so long? Well, that was the first time I ever heard the word Rasaji. At the same time, it kind of rang a distant bell inside of me. And I was practicing with him for about 6 months. And we have 3 turns in our Tai Chi form that we do. As you know, it's kind of like slow motion dance.
Mm-hmm.
And we made this first 180-degree turn. And when we did, I looked at him and he wasn't dressed the same. And the format in the background, Myrna, had been totally transformed. It looked like I was in Asia sometime. And it was like many moons ago. Well, that set in motion a whole different chain of events. I trained with him 3 more years, and then he invited me to come and train in the Lamas area in Tibet, and where I spent about 3.5 years. And at the end of the first year, he took me to a mountaintop, and there's where I had the chance to have my first 45-day challenge myself. And that's where this whole concept of 45 days started. I was left on a mountaintop, the end of my 4th year of training, but my first year in Tibet. And I was going from a teacher to an adept. It was kind of like an initiation, if you will. But here was the key. I was only 20 years old at the time. I'm on top of a mountain. Just imagine there's no other humans up there. There's no Wi-Fi. I mean, we're talking like 1980, right?
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, you can't imagine. I just went through an enormous amount of soul searching during that 45 days. On the 46th day, he came and got me, and we're starting to walk down the mountains. And he says, you know, you look kind of puzzled. He used to tease me and call me Little Lama long before I was ever named Lama. And I actually thought it was just a little bit of a joke. I had no clue that one day I would be a Lama myself, especially at that age. But I said, you know, what am I going to do? You guys are going to want me to go back and teach this to the Western world. You know, I'm very young. I mean, who's going to listen to me? And he says, oh, you kind of still stuck in that microwave mentality, aren't you? I thought after 45 days meditation, I said, well, I'm concerned having impact with people. He said, well, if you want to get there fast, this is what I suggest you do. He said, look at what the world is doing, Little Lama, and do the opposite. And I never forget, you know, in the last 24 months, that's probably rang more true with me, Myrna, than any other time. When you look at what's been going on in the world and how much the contrast is, well, you know, that was huge. I remember I came back to America. I continued to stay in the arts for a while. And then I moved to North Florida primarily after a hip injury that I occurred dancing off Broadway. And so I was nursing that hip injury. My family was living here, but I still didn't see me quite yet the teacher. I still had that connection with the entertainment world. That it was kind of torn between, but this seemed like the longer I was in Jacksonville, the more that draw got. So one day they sent me a message and they said, you've been training now for a long time. It's time to take the candle behind the bush, as it says in scriptures, right? And it says it's time for you. So 1983, actually out of a dance school in South Jacksonville, I began to share the art of Tai Chi Gung. And I was still dancing on the side. And it was amazing. I remember 5 people walked in my first class, and all 5 people were at least 20 years my senior. And we walked in and we started to talk, and we had a good time, and it was just amazing. I opened my mouth, wasn't sure, to be honest with you, completely nervous, Myrna, and but out of my mouth, words came, and they just fell together. And every day it got a little bit easier. And then I started seeing not only was I having the benefit, they were having benefit, and the testimonies started to roll in. And then in the 90s, I had a chance to begin to start teaching in retirement centers. And that's when things really got to be a big deal. I was motivated. My grandmother, bless her heart, was living in a retirement center in Nashville. And I thought, I can't be with her. So it just kind of like touched my heart that maybe if I went and helped people her age, that indirectly she was being helped also. So she really motivated her. Her name was Grace. And so I always thought about how beautiful her name was and how beautiful of a spirit that she was. So I began teaching older people, and it was so much exciting. As a matter of fact, one of the series of exercise, Myrna's, that we have on our website, it's called the Emperor's Choice exercise. And it was actually designed for an emperor in China who had neuromuscular disease. And the Lama chose to isolate, one arm movement at a time, one hand movement. And what we found for the retirement people and assistant living care people, this was a phenomenal physical therapy program for them. And a lot of them could start in the chair, and then 6 to 18 months later, they could graduate to the standing exercises, which then would even expedite.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right, that was an excellent story. I love, when I ask someone how they got started, and they take me through the whole process. I love it. So a couple of things I want to circle back to.
Sure.
You said that you had the out-of-body experience and met your master. So was that means that you were chosen for this, or?
Well,
give me the spiritual explanation for that.
Well, today they would say the short answer would be yes. For a long time, Myrna, to be honest with you, people say, well, what kind of Lama are you, Rasaji? I said, well, imagine Forrest Gump goes Lama, and then you'll have a good idea what kind of Lama I am. But I was like, to be honest with you, probably the most shocked that this was the pathway. Because as I said before, outside of having the kidney problem, by the time I met the Lama in 75 in physical form, I already had 2 other black belts. I was a very well-adapted dancer, and I had no traces of childhood illness at the time, thank God. And I was torn somewhere between wanting to be the next Bruce Lee or to be the next Rudolph Nureyev, if you can appreciate it, right? So that's kind of where I was. Yeah. And I was, I like to be real honest. And this concept of being a Lama, it didn't really fit at the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But boy,
well, I guess that means you were chosen, because it's not something that you thought about. It was introduced to you, and you were chosen, and he appeared to you, and you were chosen. Now, my only experience with Tai Chi is in the movies. You mentioned Bruce Lee, but I saw it in The Karate Kid. I think that's
right.
The master was teaching him those moves in the Karate Kid. Right.
Well, it's true. I mean, the root of I learned years later that the root of Tai Chi Gung and a lot of the yoga movements have their root in ancient Hindi dancing in India. After coming back from Tibet, my master said, you know, your next training is going to be, you're going to go to India, because the roots of our system actually come from India. The original master, Boganathar / Lao Tzu, actually was not born in China, as a lot of people think that he was. He was actually born Brahmin in India, and he was initially a master of 3 yoga disciplines: Hatha yoga, stretching and conditioning yoga, Kundalini yoga, energy yoga, and then of course pranayama yoga, the ability to breathe energy and not just oxygen.
You do the Kundalini as well?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
And so he was looking around for several years, and he had kind of like outgrown what was going on, and he was having these visions, and those visions took him from India to China. So when he got to China, he began to share his yoga by the riverbanks of the Yangtze River for like a decade. And what he noticed, Myrna, is that unlike yoga, you know, you have your asanas and you're in different postures, and that does one thing to the energy, but the transference of weight from your right to your left foot did something totally different to energy. Not only that, being surrounded by the elements of nature also influenced that. So what he decided to do is that, you know, I'm going to be by the riverbank. And then he went into the mountains for a decade. Then he went into the wilderness. If you can imagine ancient China, 3,000 plus years ago, Myrna, before any industry, right? I mean, you could go and get a glass and right out of spring water, drink the water. It was that clean. It was just amazing. What he realized was this intrinsic energy we call the chi is constantly present in all the 4 basic elements of nature: earth, water, air, and fire. So he decided to make Mother Nature now his teacher. And he says, you know what? I realize that nature remembered what the human race forgot. And that was about health and longevity. So they, you know, Mother Nature and the elements influenced them. About 50 years of this, one day the emperor of the Middle Kingdom's general shows up. And at that time, he's long matted hair and, you know, probably stunk to high heaven, hadn't had a decent bath in many, many, many years. And in the process, he told him that we have this emperor that's not doing well. So they took him to the palace and asked this holy man if he would help them. So they shaved him down, they bathed him, they put him in the traditional ponytail. And then the Emperor Qin, who was very young at the time, maybe 28, 29 years old, and he was dying of a neuromuscular disease. The Chinese herbal doctors and the acupuncture physicians had given him only a couple of years to live, but under the tutelage of Boganathar Lao Tzu, he lived another 20 plus years. And it was there that actually the Qin form of Tai Chi was given birth in China. But when he was done, they asked him to stay and do formal teaching in the palace. And he said, nope, my training is not over. I have not yet perfected this art. And so he says, I'm going up. So he left China. He went up through Nepal and into southern Tibet. And there they said that he meditated over 50 years. And in that meditation, angels gave him the vision of the Lamasery and told him that you would eventually be teaching 12 people who eventually would become 36. And that's how that whole thing got started.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, all right. So let's, we're talking about harmonizing the mind, body, and the spirit today.
Okay.
So how does, tell us about Tai Chi and
Okay.
how that harmonizes the mind, body, and spirit. I don't know if you want to start off by saying how Tai Chi is different from, other forms of, other forms of that kind of movement kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's again, the roots coming from ancient India. They had an old practice years ago that's been modified and kind of westernized over the last several hundred years, but it was called the chanda. And what they did, you might remember, they would paint their forehead with 3 golden stripes, and then they would put a magenta dot right in the root of the nose. Today, they pretty much just do the magenta dot. It stood for spirit, mind, and body are but one. Spirit, mind, and body are but one. So that's the roots of our teachings because they come from the Siddha Yoga practice. So the idea is that we have an energy body that, if we're healthy, goes 7 feet in all directions right from the sternum. Now, on a master, this field can expand to as much as 10 to 12 feet around us. The physical body is actually housed inside that body. So it's like this energy cocoon, if you will, around all of us. It's interesting to know that the earth itself has the same kind of energy body around it. And we have in our bodies the different endocrine gland systems, which are the physical components of what in yoga they refer to the psychic components called chakras, which means wheels that spins, right?
Right.
These chakras have spokes that are referred to as nadas in Sanskrit. And there's 72,000 of those. So that when we're born physically, until puberty happens, about half of these spokes are turned in and half of them are turned out. When all these spokes, when puberty comes, there's a chance now to start turning those spokes out, and then they're supposed to spin like a nice wheel. Well, these chakras are as big as a steering wheel on a sailboat. Now, the exercises were designed to open up the nadas and then harmoniously take the 7 chakras and spin them harmoniously. And when they do, we get a lot of spiritual, mental, and also physical benefit. And it's just amazing. You know, people were to go to Rasaji.com, they'll see the testimonies of the people that's been doing our 45-day challenge, where they're only doing about 20 to 40 minutes a day. And in the process, you'll start to hear people have a direct experience with the energy that we refer to as the chi.
Yes, yes, I've heard of that. Now, I've been spending some time myself trying to work with this energy, not at, not like what you're doing it, but, I'm conscious of it because I've been following, Sadhguru, and I read his book on Indian engineering, and I'm now reading his book on karma. And he talked, because it's all part of yoga, and he talks about this energy. So when I walk, I am practicing extending my energy out in the energy field. And I do chakra meditation, but yes, Tai Chi Gung is awesome. And I see people in the park, and you mentioned that you started teaching the elderly, because that's really who I see doing these exercises, not too many young people. And probably because it's very easy to do. Like you said, you can sit in a chair first, and then you can stand up, but it is so elegant. So what you're saying is that each move is designed to open your chakras and manipulate your energy. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and it is. And when you're one of the reasons that you see it practiced outside so much is
Yeah.
because they are following through with the original masters mindset, and that is they know that being outside, the energy and the movement connects them to the intrinsic chi of nature, of the four basic elements of earth, water, air, and fire.
Mhm.
And so, which our body is a composite of those four basic elements. When you examine the first four chakras in the body, the root chakra is earth, the neck chakra is water, the solar plex, of course, would be fire. And then, of course, the air element around the heart center. Then the mind is kind of the fifth element, and it's in the throat chakra, which is the creative and power center. And then, of course, you have the six chakras at the root of the nose and the crown chakras at the head. We actually have five more chakras, but they're outside the physical body. And the only way to really get them activated is you have to harmonize those other seven. Now, the neat thing about the seven, and this is one of the most powerful physical impacts the system has to people over a short period of time, is they correspond with the endocrine gland system. All right. So the fifth chakra, we know we have our thyroid glands right here, right? And then the fourth chakra, of course, we have our thymus gland, the adrenaline glands, and the third. And they're kind of the red and black cable of a battery, if you go to think. And so you have one that's grounding. See, we have the chakra itself kind of flows when it's healthy in a clockwise manner. So there's an outflow like this. And that flow is actually referred to as Tai Chi. There is a counterflow that is referred to as Wu Chi. And when I do this motion, you see the figure eight, the infinity sign. You see that? In scripture, they refer to that as Jacob's ladder, right? So when you go through full activation of the Kundalini, as they refer to in India, Master Rabbi Jesus is how we refer to Jesus in the Lamasery. He referred to it as second birth. He said, you're born of the water of a woman, but then again, you need to be born of fire of the Father. And he said, in order for us to really understand God's way and God's law, we needed to get on the other side of this birth. Tai Chi Gung was designed to help activate that and also keep it very balanced as a person goes through this transformation. So it's a real beautiful thing, Murph.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Wow. I think I'm going to go and take your class. That's amazing.
Well, the beautiful thing is
that's amazing. I putter around with a lot of stuff, but I don't do it right. But at least I'm conscious of it.
That's how it all starts, though. That's how it starts. That's exactly right. Too funny.
Yes, I love the Kundalini because I practice that meditation because I like it. The fact that, the way I practice it is like the Kundalini is like a snake coiled up at the bottom of your root chakra. When you work the energy, you move it up your spine. And I kind of practice about that. And, the other day I saw a snake when I was in the park, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, okay, that's the way you uncoil.
Right. That's great. That's wonderful.
Like I said, I putter around with all this stuff because I'm talking to guests on the radio. I'm listening to books, and I'm learning. I love it.
Good for you. God bless you. Good for you.
Well, and I know the energy body is very, very important. It's very, very important for everything,
Everything.
And also, I want to touch on that where, people probably are not making the connection, but, I make the connection when you talk about your energy body is outside of you 7 feet. And if it's healthy, you can propel it to 10 or 12 feet. When I'm walking, I'm aware of that as well, because that's also your soul, right?
Well, your soul is housed deep down inside your body. The beautiful thing, our explanation for the soul is, as we know that when a mother is early pregnant, the soul actually enters the body of the expectant mother and the fetus during simultaneously when that baby moves that first time, which is usually about halfway through pregnancy, right? So, but the first meridian that's in there, we call the fetus meridian, which in acupuncture physician, they say going up the spine is the governing vessel, coming down the front of the body is the conceptional vessel. And that's one of the keys that we use to balance the Kundalini. Because from time to time, people have opened sometimes prematurely the Kundalini, and maybe they start to get side effects. Headaches are very common for if the Kundalini is getting stuck, example, the energy in the head. So the idea of Tai Chi Gung is our movements keep the chakras balanced enough so that the Kundalini energy moves through that energy. So, so when the soul enters the mom, beginning, there's like this trickle, like just think of a rock going across the water or an electrical surge in the body. And what you notice about the expectant mother is you could see her one day before the soul makes entry, and you will see a different countenance on her face, and the light in her eyes is intensified because now you have the presence of the second soul.
Right. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. All right. Well, I was told from one of these books or whatever that the soul goes in and out your body, and it comes in front of you and it goes in. So
it has the ability. It has the ability to do it. The tendency is that it's rooted normally initially right behind the sternum in the body. So it's right there. That's why when people sometimes, you know, the things happen, they say they feel pressure there, you know, and stuff. It's rooted there. And what happens as you go through the other side of the Kundalini transformation, or what Christ referred to as second birth, now actually more of the soul than ever before can occupy the body. And what happens is it pushes its energy body out. And those meridians that acupuncture physician used to treat primarily inside the physical body also begin to now exceed beyond the physical body, very much like if I grabbed the Florida orange and if I peeled back the peeling, I would see a membrane around the orange, right? Well, that membrane now fills your energy body, and so does those pressure points and meridians. So now you have the ability to connect and influence energy patterns much further distance. This is very powerful because if you're needing to send out healing energy to someone, you're projecting yourself, part of yourself. A master can project all their self if need be. And this is when Jesus makes the reference. So is one born of the Spirit. He says, where the wind cometh from and where it goeth, we know not of, but so is one born of the Spirit. So again, he makes reference to born of the Spirit, which is the ancient Indian Kundalini experience.
Thank you for that explanation.
Sure.
Like, again, I had a little bit of the information, but not the whole picture.
It was wonderful. It's wonderful.
That is awesome. Well, you know, I'm talking to the master here, so I'm getting it correct. I want to touch on something before we, we move on to the circle of life.
Sure.
You mentioned that we can activate our own stem cells. So can you explain, I'm pretty sure it has to do something about this energy and the chakras. And so how can someone do that with Tai Chi Gung?
Well, and this very concept, so in the body, in Revelations, they make this concept 144,000. Well, one of the references of that 144,000 is most of the medicine world or the medical world are aware of 6 to 8 parathyroids that are opposite the thyroid glands in the neck. So they run up and down. In actuality, you have 144,000 in the human body that are asleep, if you will. Concept, it gives a new meaning to the concept sleeper cell, yes? But as you go into the Kundalini experience and you go into transformation, you're going to start to turn them on. And the analogy basically that's going on inside us, Myrna, is if I'm in a residential house, I know the electricity grid runs like 110. But if I go into commercial grade, it's like 220. And so the surge of electricity is totally different. As we're going through the second birth, we are going from 110 as a human being into 220 wattage, right? Nice. And we're getting our lights and our cells in our body turned on. There is a switch that is being thrown now. It's partially activated by the chakras, and it's partially activated by the endocrine gland system itself. So one of the things that Tai Chi Gung does, as it's designed to strengthen the energy body first, balance the chakras, open those nadas, those spokes. Now, once that's in place, then the energy starts to go into the different systems of the body. Obviously, the respiratory and the nervous system, which are closely linked to the meridian system, is first activated. But as you examine, then all of a sudden the circulatory system gets benefit. Then the muscles start to get benefit. Eventually, it goes down into the bones and eventually all the way into the mara of the bones itself. And when that happens, well, when you think of a disease example, Myrna, like leukemia, leukemia is the opposite of regenerating bone marrow. It is actually the depletion of that. So imagine that you could practice an art and strengthen your autoimmune system to the point to regenerate bone marrow. And then you'll understand how profound what we're talking about.
Wow. Is that easy to do, or you've got to have special training to do that?
Well, it just, it's funny. It's the training, but it's a natural progression. Okay. What we've observed is if the humans today came in and were introduced to a system like Tai Chi Gung early, what should be happening, Myrna, is when a child reaches the natural age of puberty, the chakras should automatically click in. But because of a lot of things we do, poor diet, poor exercises, negative thinking, not breathing energy, very little oxygen, all the things that are the opposite of what I teach in my first book called The Circle of Life, it's not being activated, right? It's not being activated. With me, after I went through surgery, and then I got into martial arts and yoga, leading up to me meeting my teacher in physical form in 75, my Kundalini, fortunately for me, got activated within a year or two of puberty. By the time I met Bo Yang, the Master Lama in New York, I was like 80%, I found out later, all the way into second birth. And as I developed more of my martial arts skills, it increased my speed, it increased my stamina, and really, it does amazing things for mental focus. Just absolutely. I remember before then, when I was trying to pick up dance choreography, it would take me a while. But all of a sudden, introduction to Tai Chi Gung, and I remember I was picking up dance steps and choreography just like this.
Nice.
It was amazing, amazing.
Okay. So that's amazing. Well, thank you for that. All right. So tell us about your company, The Circle of Life, and how you help your students to overcome challenges and health. I know we've talked about that, but how does, talk about a little bit about finances and relationships, because I don't get that
Well,
connection.
a lot of people, well, and it's funny, a lot of people don't. To be honest with you, a lot of people don't. So money, depending on how you look at money, and there are many different forms of money. So we have, fiat currency, we have the dollar bill, and then we have the precious metals.
Okay.
And also we have to first start to see money as energy itself. The moment we start to understand that products, goods, and services are exchanged for something, and in that mutation or transformation, a lot of times it's a different form of energy. As a matter of fact, that is today, the world's like, okay, so what should I invest in? Well, I'm not a financial planner by any sense of me, but it's a lot of it's not rocket science, because what I want to do, if I'm looking out, let's say a 10-year window from now, when we were growing up, our parents would tell us, own land because there's only so much of it, right? Well, when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense, but
Yes.
that also means that Earth has an intrinsic value that a fiat paper money doesn't have. So they vibrate with a different frequency, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's take precious metals, gold and silver.
Came from the earth, right? Yes.
Exactly. And so the things that have intrinsic value, what it's telling me is, if I was to move forward with my life over the next 10 years, I would probably want to own some property. I would probably want to own some silver, own some gold. And if I had an infinity toward precious jewels, emeralds, diamonds, these are all intrinsically valued by the divine, because he only made so much of it.
Yeah.
So it's like
Makes sense.
So we start to share that with people. Also, there is so many, we teach people, one of the things that begins to happen is the exercise start to really balance both hemispheres of the brain, Myrna. So your creative and your analytical side all of a sudden start to come together. So we teach people to get a little spiral notebook, go to the dollar store, and begin to put that by where they practice. And it's amazing the creative ideas that come up. We also have this document thing they can download on the website at rasaji.com that's called the column exercise. And the column exercise is a little exercise that you can do to use to help you determine, okay, maybe I want to create a business. What would that business look like? And how would I connect to that business? Maybe I want to make an investment. Maybe I'm looking for my soulmate. How would I really strategically, energetically go about finding that person, right? So this column exercise that they download after they start our 45-day challenge, which is absolutely free, Myrna. They can go to rasaji.com, the Circle of Life, and they can click on 45-day challenge. All they have to give us is an email address. That's it. Then the videos that support the challenge, all the documents come to them, and all they're required to do is commit to about 20 to 40 minutes a day. One other thing we ask them to do, it makes the experience more powerful, and that is say no to negative input over the next 45 days.
Wow. That's important. Yes.
Yeah. Tell the family, say, look, I'm going on a sabbatical with the Lama and I'm going to train with him for 45 days. So I'm not going to watch too much of the TV news. Please don't send me these texts that, are going to make me upset.
Yeah.
And just try to honor what I'm going to do. And then they can read the testimonies on the site, Myrna, of people that are anywhere from maybe 145-day challenge to as many as 5 or 6 of them already.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah. Now, how do you spell the name of the website? I got Circle
it's
of Life.
Rasaji. Well, just like my name, it's all small caps, RASAJI.com, Rasaji.com.
Okay.
And they'll go there and they'll become a free member of our Circle of Life community, which means they get a daily email, and every day I do a daily Lama, an inspirational message to them. And we don't inundate people with emails and all that kind of stuff, but they can start that 45-day challenge at any time. And of course, they can now read, probably it's a good close to 100 testimonies on the sites now.
That's amazing. All right. Yes, I'm going to join that myself.
Wonderful. Love to have you, Myrna. Love it.
Yes, I need to get the right knowledge here. And I love that. Like, yes, and I go to the park every day. So
good for you.
I do a 5K walk. So I can add this. I'm outside already in elements.
So it's wonderful.
That's beautiful. Okay, sorry, what were you saying?
No, I said that's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Okay, all right. So this 45-minute class or course, introduces them to the Circle of Life and what you do and the Tai Chi Gung and all that. Okay. That's
correct. And they are able to download my book for free, and it's part of reading. And we're talking about, praying and learning to meditate in a very gentle way. And there's like 4 standing exercises that they spend a couple of minutes with each day. The whole thing takes about 20 to 40 minutes. And it's very powerful. And they're going to have a direct experience with the energy in the first class, Myrna. That's the power of it, a direct experience. Yes.
Wow. Well, thank you for doing that and doing it for free. That's beautiful.
Oh, you're welcome.
You are going to be very well blessed to be sharing this information.
Thank you.
And helping people, with their energy and their health and their chakra system. And I see so much benefits of that, for what this does. So that's amazing. So thank you so much. I told you I was going to enjoy this conversation.
Well, I did too. I love being on your show. We'll have to do it again before too long.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm really honored that I can have you on the show and you can talk about, helping us to use our energy body to for various ways. And I never saw the money connection, even though I know that money is an exchange, and they talk about giving. Because when you give, you help with the energy of moving money around. And
absolutely. We talk about in Tai Chi Gung the 9 pillars of the science of abundance that go all the way back to the Babylonian times. And you were hinting at the first pillar of the 9 is give what you want. You want love, give love. You want money, give money. And so there's 9 pillars, and that is the first pillar. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. So I've made that connection before, but I didn't make the connection that you just talked about with the land and the precious metals and things like that. So that's amazing. I'm excited to be on your journey.
Oh, well, wonderful. Well, you're more than welcome, and all are welcome. And you're a beautiful soul, Myrna. And I really enjoyed being on your show today.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed our conversation. All right, guys. Well, listen, as we wrap up, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life. This is the quality guest I bring you every week. Now, this was an awesome interview, because I'm sure that your mind has been transformed by the conversation that I had with Master Lama. So thank you guys for tuning in. Head over to Master Lama's website, which is rasaji.com, I guess, /Circle of Life. I will have links to Master Lama's website on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us, and a transcript of this interview. So if you just want to, to read about it and pick up some points that you might have missed by listening to the interview. Very, very excited. I am as well as going to become a student. I promise that. I'm going to go and sign up and start, learning to move my energy the correct way.
Wonderful.
So, all right, guys. So thank you. If you're listening to this on iTunes, we'll love for you to rate and review, because I try to bring you top quality guests every week. So thank you, Master Lama. I appreciate you being on the show. I appreciate what you're doing for the world by offering this free 45-day class. So blessings to you and your work. And, namaste.
Namaste. And God bless, Myrna.
God
nice
bless.
to be with you.
Yes. All right, guys, listen, until next time, namaste.